Today we're going to explore one of the most useful writing skills in English: how to compare. Whether you're talking about two places, two people, or even two ideas, knowing how to clearly explain similarities and differences is an important academic and real-life skill. In this lesson, we'll look at structures used to compare and contrast, and learn how to write a clear paragraph using the block method. We'll break down a paragraph with simple grammar and vocabulary. Let's begin with the basics. To compare means to talk about how two people, places, or things are similar. For example, both students and teachers need to prepare before class. This sentence shows that they share something in common. To contrast means to show how two people, places, or things are different. For instance, a bicycle doesn't cause air pollution, but a car does. This sentence shows one main difference between the two. Now, let's look at some common comparative structures that help us describe similarities. We use words like and, both, also, and to show what two subjects have in common. For example, the teacher and the student are prepared, or I am tired and he is too. These structures make it easier to show that two things are alike. We can also use the phrase similar to. For example, her school bag is similar to the one I use for work. Another useful phrase is the same as in, my English class is the same as yours. We also compare using as plus adjective plus as. For example, this book is as interesting as the movie. This tells us that two things are equal in some way. And don't forget these helpful linking words: likewise and similarly. They connect two similar ideas. For example, the library is quiet in the morning. Similarly, it is calm in the afternoon. Now, let's look at contrastive structures, which show how things are different. We use more or less plus adjective plus than. For example, winter mornings are less warm than summer mornings. Or use adjective plus er plus than, like, today's lesson is shorter than yesterday's lesson. Words like but, while, and though can show contrast in the same sentence. For example, she works in an office, but her sister works from home. Another example is, she listens to music while her roommate studies quietly. You can also use not the same as, such as, my timetable is not the same as my friend's timetable. Or use not as plus adjective plus as. Like, winter here is not as cold as winter in my country. More formal linking phrases include different from, in contrast, however, and on the other hand. These are great for writing. For example, many shops close early on weekdays. In contrast, restaurants often stay open late. Or, working from home saves time. On the other hand, it can feel isolating for some people. Now that we understand the language for comparing and contrasting, let's see how to organize this in a paragraph. One method is called block method. In the block method, we first talk about one topic and its key points. Then we move on to the second topic and compare or contrast those same points. Here is an example of a paragraph using block method. Traveling by train and traveling by airplane are two common ways to move between cities, but they offer very different experiences. Train journeys usually allow passengers to enjoy scenic views, with more space to walk around and stretch during the trip. Travelers on trains often experience fewer delays and have a more relaxed boarding process. In contrast, air travel is much faster for long distances, often reducing a journey that takes hours by train to just 1 hour by plane. However, flights often involve stricter security checks and longer wait times at the airport. Although both trains and planes help people reach their destinations, they provide quite distinct travel experiences in terms of comfort, speed, and convenience. Let's now break down this paragraph and understand how each sentence works. Topic sentence. Traveling by train and traveling by airplane are two common ways to move between cities, but they offer very different experiences. Function. This introduces both topics, train and air travel, and tells the reader that the focus is on their differences. It sets up the comparison clearly. First supporting sentence. Train journeys usually allow passengers to enjoy scenic views, with more space to walk around and stretch during the trip. Function. This begins the discussion of topic A, trains, by giving details about comfort and experience. Second supporting sentence. Travelers on trains often experience fewer delays and have a more relaxed boarding process. Function. Another point about trains, adding details about timing and ease of travel. Third supporting sentence. In contrast, air travel is much faster for long distances, often reducing a journey that takes hours by train to just 1 hour by plane. Function. This introduces topic B, air travel, and contrasts the speed. Fourth supporting sentence. However, flights often involve stricter security checks and longer wait times at the airport. Function. Another detail about air travel, focusing on inconvenience. Concluding sentence. Although both trains and planes help people reach their destinations, they provide quite distinct travel experiences in terms of comfort, speed, and convenience. Function. This wraps up the comparison and restates the main idea. Let's now look at the grammar and vocabulary focus. In this paragraph, we use the present simple tense for general facts. Words like usually, often, and however help show time or contrast. We also use comparative structures. More space compares the space between the train and the plane. Faster shows that planes are quicker than trains. Fewer delays uses fewer to compare the number of delays. Now it's your turn. Try writing your own paragraph comparing two things you know well. Maybe online classes and in-person classes, or two hobbies you enjoy. Use the words we've learned today.